Well, the Astros are heading to Beantown, and they take on the Boston Red Sox. They like hitting in Fenway Park. They like hitting balls over the monster and around Pesky's pole. Can the Astros offense get it together with runners in scoring position and defeat the Red Sox and keep their winning ways alive, stay on top of the AOS? Let's talk about it on this edition of Locked On Astros.
Jainer Diaz, this is Locked On Astros.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
This is Walker Yannick. You're listening to Locked On Astros podcast.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we update you. Join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on X at Eric Talkstros. You can find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. And we appreciate each one of you that call yourself part of the Locked On Astros Nation and you've become everydayers, somebody that listens to a podcast every day. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You know you've done it. You know you want to do it. It's awesome. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use the code, all lowercase, LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Brett, it's been a weird night. No baseball, at least for the Astros.
Yeah, it's okay. It's an off day. The guys need an off day. The arms need an off day. Chaz probably needs to rest. And if he gets put in the game, he needs to actually hit. So maybe it's good for him. We've got a lot of guys that were hitting the ball this last series. Not a ton. We're still concerned about runners in scoring position. But look, I like where this team's headed. But you can find me at h-vac on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Wherever else to find me. Back to the Bullpen and Astros 411. Just hit me up on socials and make sure you check me out. Hit me up in DMs for the game. I've still got a few tickets left. I don't have a ton, but I've got a few for the September 1st Locked On Astros get together at the Astros game and the mezzanine level under El Grande. Bring your glove. Maybe Jordan will hit us a home run in row 11 of 254. So make sure you get your tickets. DM me today. But Eric, I'm excited about going to Boston. Boston's playing better this year. Boston's playing well over their skis, more so than what Boston fans thought. Talked to a Boston podcast last night about it, and they're playing a lot better. They're way beyond expectations, and they have a guy that could get Rookie of the Year that was an Astros prospect, but we traded him for Christian Vasquez. So, I'm excited. I'm excited anytime the Astros go to Fenway Park.
Yeah, it's always a awesome place to play, and I know that it's one of those historical ballparks that's still out there. You can't really say that about Yankee Stadium because they changed to ballparks, but I think that just Wrigley Field, you have you just have Fenway, you have some. Whatever they call Phillies, the ballpark. There's just some of those older type ball. No, you know what? The Phillies is relatively new too. So I'm trying to think of some of the ballparks that are still kind of old. The ones that kind of
Wrigley Field, Dodger Stadium, Yankee.
I said Wrigley, yeah, at Dodgers Stadium. Okay. Okay. I thought that was relatively new, but okay, you're probably right. But I don't really care about the Red Sox at this moment. I care about your Houston Astros, who are back in first place. And thank you, Tariq Skubal and the Tigers for taking care of business. And by beating the Mariners have lost 3 games in a row, while the Astros have won 2 games in a row. And the Rangers have lost 2 games in a row. Thank you, Astros, for doing that. The Rangers are actually 3-7 in the last 10 games. The Mariners are 5-5. The Astros are only 4-6 in the last 10 games, but they're still in first place. So it's like the AL West is somewhere where nobody wants to win. So the Astros have got to get serious about it. And I know a lot of people are looking at the Astros. I mean, like, well, this is the first time they brought up they rushed a prospect in a while. Normally they kind of slow play the prospects, but what they did with DeZenzo, this is something that you don't see that often, especially. I'm not saying there wasn't a need, because there's definitely a need, especially with the offense as it is. But I think that shows what they think of him. I think Shea Whitcomb, he played first base for 4 games in a row. He's back at third base tonight, but I
Right.
know the Astros are watching him. Ledmus Diaz is just kind of keeping the bench warm right now and leading his leadership skills right now. But at some point, they're going to have to make a decision. Do we go ahead and go with another rookie or just go and keep on going with Ledmus Diaz?
Yeah, exactly. I just think they need to just cut ties with the guy. He's played one game. He's pretty much he's like, if he's there to like pick up the spirits, can he just be like your life coach or be like almost like when you have an alumni game for like a college, or you know how the Yankees have the old timers game, just have a Ledmus Diaz as like clubhouse dude, like give him that position, like pay him $60,000, whatever. He really is taking up a roster spot. It makes no sense. But the gift that keeps on giving, Eric, is the American League West. Brad McTaggart pointed this out earlier, and I wish I would have thought about this. This is a great idea. He said if the Astros were not in the AL West, in the other 5 divisions, this is where they would be. They would be behind first place in the AL East by 8.5 games, AL Central by 8 games, NL East by 9 games, NL Central by 5.5, and NL West by 6.5. So the Astros definitely are benefactors of being in the AL West. And I'm just like, wow, did you hear anything I said? Because you just
no, this huge spider jumped at me and I'm like, oh, and I just killed it. So no.
So okay, so what I was telling the people is if the Astros were in any other division other than the AL West, they would be no less than 5.5 games out, and no less than 9.5 games, and no more closer than 5.5 games out. We're basically benefactors of our own terrible division, which I'm not mad at. I'm not saying I want to be in another division, but the Astros have to take advantage of this, Eric, because if this team can win the West and if they can get in the playoffs, I believe in this team. I don't care what kind of year they've had. You change that in the playoffs. You remember Dave Roberts talking about the Dodgers, we may win 120 something games. They got beat in the NLDS. I mean, all these teams get hot. The Astros haven't been hot enough for long enough for me to go, okay, they're done being hot. I mean, they still got plenty of candle to burn. And I think they're going to do that. Just got to stay poised. And apparently the Tigers as we speak, are up 1-0 on the Mariners. So go Tigers. Let's sweep the Mariners.
And I know a lot of people have given me a little bit of grief about kind of saying the silver boot doesn't mean anything. I wasn't really saying the silver boot itself doesn't mean anything. I just meant originally it didn't mean anything. But right now it's about who wins the series more than the boot, because who won that last series, it was a big difference. Because what if the Rangers went on this big winning streak at some point and they found a way back to maybe tie with the Astros at some point? You had to have that tiebreaker. And for the Astros doing what they did was awesome. And I think it's going to pay dividends down the road. So now the Astros just need to make sure they maintain. What's the record versus the Mariners? I'll have to look that up.
The Mariners. Yeah. You, let me look that up. Keep making your point and I'll go.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that the Astros, the path to the playoffs is going to be through the AL West. Like we talked about this, the strength is in the Central and the East this year. You have too many teams that are stacked with players. The Twins are good. You have the Guardians that are doing well, and you have some other teams that could surprise. You have the AL East where you have the Yankees, you have the Orioles. Like we talked about the Red Sox we're playing right now. If you want to make the playoffs, it's got to be through the AL West. And
well, it is they are up on us 6-5 this year. 6-5. So
yeah, so the Astros, I think they play at least one more series if I remember correctly, but they need to take advantage and they've got to maintain that. They got to get that win. So they can have the tiebreaker there, but it's not the end of the world if they finish ahead of the Mariners. But if it's going to suck like we had last year. Remember how we won on a technicality and we were tied with the Rangers, but we had the tiebreaker. So that's how we were the AL West champions.
Well, but this year I think it's different though, because if you're not the AL West champions, you don't make the playoffs. And the Rangers still made the playoffs. We had 2 teams represent, and so
that's what I'm saying. It's gonna suck if you lose the tiebreaker
okay.
and then you're out of the playoffs total.
Yes, exactly. Because if you go down to where they are right now, presumptively in second place, you're automatically 4.5 games out. I think we pretty much have put the Rangers to bed for the most part. I don't see this as a 3-team race at all. Rangers fans don't see it as a 3-team race. I know last year we're like, oh, their goose is cooked, but I think this year their goose is really cooked. They don't have what it takes to repeat. They don't have the pitching. Their hitters, none of their offense is hitting the way that it did last year. And so it is what it is. You are primed to stay in front of Seattle, jockey with them for a couple weeks. Take advantage, though. Take advantage of this Tiger sweep. They play the Tigers again. The Tigers may just be one of those teams. Remember when the Orioles were bad and they beat us they swept us at home I think it was 2022. We were swept by the Orioles the same year we won the World Series. We get swept by the A's. We got swept earlier by the Yankees. I mean, sometimes teams just have your number, and the Tigers may be motivated. They don't really have anything to play for other than spoil people's playoff hopes. And of course we go there. So hopefully they don't do the same thing to us. Maybe AJ will throw us a bone.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I mean, I know he liked his time with the Astros, even though it didn't end so well. But I know that somebody asked about, well, what about if we have if we don't have the tiebreaker, or we'll answer that question in a second. But guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Make sure you go and subscribe to us on YouTube and make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you're listening to your podcasts. Go and check us out.
This episode is brought to you by Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order when you use the code MLB at liquidiv.com. Hydrating like nobody else. That's right. If you're taking in America's favorite pastime, don't forget to hydrate with Liquid IV's Popsicle Firecracker flavor. It's a surefire summer hit. Get hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients with the #1 powdered hydration brand in America. Because baseball and summer go together like Liquid IV and indulgent hydration. Blast off with this new iconic summer flavor, Popsicle Firecracker, as I mentioned before, and other favorite flavors on the website, Acia Berry, also lemon lime, and pina colada, powered by Live Hydroscience, and optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients to turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration. 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, 8 essential vitamins and nutrients, and always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. So no more thirsty summers. LiquidIV.com is the place you go. Use the promo code MLB and get 20% off your first order. Check out the better hydration, the best hydration with LiquidIV.com. Passion, drive, and patience, a formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, LED headlights, exhaust kits, and so much more. Over 122 million parts for your #1 ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is going to fit every time. If not, you get your money back. That's right. With eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash, with all the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers.
Hey guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Whether it's on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to us. Make it your first listen. Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Let's go and check out the Locked On Astros podcast. So I'm going to go ahead and put this question up. This is what I was trying to say, and as I was trying to look up the record and everything. So Astros on top says, what if you tie in a head-to-head matchup and they're tied for first at the end of the season? Well, what they do this on purpose with the division rivals. They try to make it where you don't have a even amount of games. So the Astros are 4-6 right now against the Mariners. It's not a good place to be. Definitely something where you don't want them to be, but there's 3 more games to go against the Mariners this season at the end of September. And it's when I say the end of September, I mean it's the second to last series of the season. So
23rd, 24th and 25th,
Right.
and they're all in Houston.
Right. So that's good. That could end up being a big series. So the Astros, if it comes down to that, they need to win that series, and they can't do anything else.
The only way, Eric, it doesn't come down to that series is if we take command of the AL West 4, 5, 6 games. They're apparently losing 3-0 right now. And so that right there will be key, is the Astros separating themselves and making sure that they can stay ahead of the guys that they are jockeying for position with right now. That's what it all comes down to. And so we go into Boston, and they still not listed any pitchers for any of the games for either team. So we don't know who the Astros are throwing off the mound right now. But Eric, I can say this: their best pitchers have recently pitched. They're going to skip Nick Pivetta because he's been giving up a lot of home runs. The podcast I was on said that he had a stiff neck from looking at all the long balls he gave up. So I thought that was pretty funny. But at the end of the day, Eric, if we put ourselves squarely in front of if we go up on them 6-7 games, it doesn't matter if they win 3 games, because they can't make up a 7-game gap in 3 games. So that right there is the key. You've got to create separation. And you know what? Maybe August is that month. I know we talked about August being this gauntlet, but maybe August is that month, Eric. I know we lost 2 out of 3 to Tampa, but if we can beat Boston 2 out of 3, we can beat Tampa 2 out of 3, and then you go sweep the White Sox, and then you play the Red Sox again here. If you're taking care of business and you get on a roll, you've got the Orioles, the Phillies, and the Royals. Once we get to those 3 series, if you can be up on the Mariners 4 or 5 games by then, you give yourself some padding. You have a little bit of give and leeway. They just got to separate themselves. And JV coming back, we'll talk about that in the last segment, because they have announced his first rehab start, and then I'll give you some more details after that.
Yeah, but I know that the Astros are playing a lot of tough competition, and they've got to use that as a gauge to see how they're going to do in the playoffs. They can't just say, well, we're playing a lot of good teams. The Astros went out there and gave their best effort. I'm accepting a 500 road trip. They're grinding out there. They're doing whatever they can. You've got to go out there and win ball games at this point. And no more excuses. They've got to get it done. And this is not the same team that we've seen in the past. This is a team that's got to go out there. They've got to get the extra tutorials. They've got to maybe get a tutor to help them. They've got to do something to get over this mark.
References. I know we're back in school, but quit with the school references.
But you know what I mean? This team has the talent, but they haven't been able to put it together. So
Right.
They need something to get them over the hump. And hopefully maybe Framber Valdez's near no-hitter will get them over the hump.
Well, I mean, Framber's last 6 starts has been phenomenal. The reason why I put this question up here, he said, how about the Astros win games instead of counting on Seattle losing games? Well, the reason why we're talking about Seattle losing games right now is because the Astros aren't playing. And that's really the main reason why we're talking about that. But you do need a coupling of the Astros winning and the Mariners losing, because if the Astros win and the Mariners lose, you gain that much more ground.
Right.
Okay. So the bottom line is we are up a half game. If the Mariners lose, we will be up a full game. It's a whole lot different than going into Friday being tied record-wise. So let's keep right now, stay in front of them, win this Red Sox series. I think it's a very winnable series. The Red Sox have been good. They've got some guys to be mindful of. A local kid, Connor Wong's pretty good catcher. They got some other guys, Darryl Hamilton, who's been kind of a little bit of a phenom. Duran out there in center field has been crazy good. Wilmer has been phenomenal. He's the guy we gave him for Christian Vasquez, but they've got some options offensively, but their pitching, I'm not so worried about. I think we get runners scoring position. I think we score guys when we get them on base.
Oh, that's who Okay, I was like, why does that name seem familiar?
Yeah,
Because I've had him on my fantasy team a few times, but he doesn't play every day. He's more of a platoon type guy. But when he plays, he's been playing pretty good. So yeah, we'll go and continue discussion. I know a lot of people are wondering. Well, yeah, it's nice if we get Justin Verlander back, but we want to know when Kyle Tucker is coming back. I think everybody, including Espada and Dana Brown, want to know when Kyle Tucker is coming back, but he did not go with the Astros to Boston. He's staying home to rehab. So I think that's a good sign that not that he's on the way back, but that.
Well, no, it is. It is because Espada said, and we talked about that last night on the show, that
Okay.
He's doing a lot of baseball activity, and they see him coming back sooner rather than later.
Well, not immediate is what I was trying to say.
No,
So, yeah, we'll continue this conversation next.
This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Download the app today. Use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for your first deposit match of up to $100. With over 5 million active members, including myself and Eric, you know that this is the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, PrizePicks is just you against the numbers. That's right. Pick 2 to 6 stat lines, and you can just watch the winnings roll in. You can win 100 times your money. PrizePicks with as little as 4 picks turn $10 into $1,000, and you can do all kinds of stuff. Sometimes you can flip what they have a projection for. If they have a player and they say over 12 and a half rebounds, you can hit the little flip arrow and it'll say under 12 and a half rebounds, or it'll say under, 4 3-pointers. And you have all these options. It's really, really fun. You have to go check it out. So download the PrizePicks app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for your first deposit match of up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a deposit match of up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen. Whether it's on YouTube, go ahead and hit that little red button down there that says subscribe. Make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify. There's a million places you can listen to us. We don't care where you listen to us. Just make us your first listen. Become an everydayer. While you're doing it, why don't you check out Michael Connor over the Locked On Astros podcast. Go and check out Sully over the Locked On MLB podcast as well. With the postseason coming, I know we're excited, especially with the Astros back in first place. There might be a chance. I know the offense needs to do a little bit better. I know, Brett, you might have talked about this, but we haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. But I remember the other day we were talking about Scott and Taylor Scott, and the fact that maybe they're trying to save his some bullets in his arm later on. But it showed the other day his velocity was down a little bit. He gave up a run, and it wasn't. He didn't have a bad outing, but you can tell that the fatigue is kind of in his arm, might be catching up to him.
So out of his 100 innings that he's pitched in his major league career, 59 1/3 have been this season.
Yeah.
So he's pitched.
I was telling you,
he's pitched over half of his career, and I didn't realize it was that much of a disparity. But look, Forrest Whitley had another scoreless inning. I think he's got like 13 or 14 in a row. He's getting a strikeout in just about every inning. His velo is up. He's looking good on the mound. He's feeling good after he goes out there. They're putting him out there an inning at a time, trying to build him up. And so you have someone like a Forrest Whitley you could bring up. You've got some other guys starting down in Sugarland you could possibly bring up towards the end if you need to. Garcia, we don't really know what's going to happen to him, but Justin Verlander, Eric, is going to start Saturday at Constellation Field, and he will get a second start. Unless his first start goes amazing, he will go. I'm sure he'll join the team. But the only difficulty with him starting a second start in the minors is the Space Cowboys are going to Tacoma, Washington after Sunday, and then the Corpus Christi Hooks are actually going to Arkansas. So Arkansas is actually closer, so he may go with the Hooks on the road to get that second start if they feel he needs it. Heck, I mean, who knows? Maybe if he does well enough, maybe they say, hey, go ahead and join the team. But it sounds like they're set on 2 starts minimum for him. And from what they're saying, I mean, Kyle Tucker should be pretty close behind Justin Verlander because I think Verlander would be like 2 weeks out. I could see Tucker here before October. or I'm sorry, before October,
Hopefully.
before mid-September.
I'm guarantee that Verlander is going to go 2 starts just because you got to stretch his arm out where he gets a certain amount of pitches, and then they probably have a certain amount of like they have a checkpoint, and so he has to reach this amount of pitches per game.
Right.
And then that way, once he gets to big league level, he's not just trying to reach this magical 75 pitches after only throwing 30 pitches in the first game. So it's not just about, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I think that they're definitely, especially as long as he's been out, they're going to play it safe with him, especially with his age, how valuable he is to the team, especially if the Astros make the playoffs. They need Justin Verlander. They need Taylor Scott. They need Kyle Tucker healthy. And I think that's what the Astros have realized, is that they can take their time with these 2 guys. And so I think that's what they're doing. I know it's frustrating. We don't know exactly what's been going on with Kyle Tucker. We don't know the extent of what was the injury with Justin Verlander. All we should care about, are they healthy enough to pitch in the postseason and play in the postseason? That's what we need. Yes, it's frustrating, but as you would say, at the end of the day, will they be ready to play when we need them the most? And that's the postseason.
I think they will. Yeah, I mean, Kyle Tucker, I think without a doubt. Justin Verlander, I think without a doubt. Garcia to me is the biggest question mark. Jay even mentioned Montero. He said, if Montero gets his head on right, maybe he can come up and help. I mean, look, for all intents and purposes, Montero was good in the 2022 playoffs. He had limited outings, but he was effective. He had a really good year in 2022. That's where he got that massive overpay, but he kind of earned it that year. They won the World Series, and he was a part of that in the postseason. But like I said, it's about getting there. You have the horses in the barn that are battle tested. And so at the end of the day, you've got to make it to the finish line. I mean, Eric, I don't know if you've been watching the Olympics, but there was the United States runner ran the 1500. He set an Olympic record. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He was in 5th or 6th place going into the last lap of the 1500. And by about the last 400 to 200 meters, this guy went from 6th to 4th, got behind the top 3 runners, tried to go around the first place runner on the inside track, got forced out, recalibrated, and shot past the world champion, ended up winning gold. It was amazing. And I was watching that race, and I was like, this is what the Astros season has been like. Right now, they're so close at the end. All they got to do, they've got to get that full-on sprint. And once they hit that turn going from August to September, they just got to get in front of Seattle so they can watch us go by and they can be disappointed once again.
We are traveling back in time.
Uh-oh.
I just want everybody to remember, Montero, the reason why the Astros GM at the time signed Montero was because of how dynamic the Astros bullpen was at that time. And they wanted to keep the party together. And so it was a career year for Montero. They overpaid for him. Now they're having to pay for it. So I think that they probably learned a lesson, but at the same time, I think even if Dana Brown was here, there was probably been some pressure for him to give that type of money to Montero. Maybe not exactly that much for that long after that being his best season ever. But you brought up Forrest Whitley earlier. You have to wonder if the Astros see him as maybe I know that Dana Brown asked for extension of his options for minor leagues, but do they see him as a quadruple A player, somebody that's probably isn't ready for the big leagues? I know they brought him up this year to give him a taste of the big leagues, but he's shown everything at the AAA level. So I think at some point we might see him again, but there are options, but the Astros are where they are because they've been so good for so long, and the cheating scandal. They don't have the farm system that the Orioles do, that the Rays do. The Rays have been able to make all these trades because they have this farm system that they can replenish players. So I think that's just where we are.
Well, here's the thing with Forrest Whitley. I mean, why wouldn't he be a late season call-up? I mean, it makes sense. If he's dealing, he's got 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 innings, probably more than that by the time you want to call him up. Call him up. Get him up here. He's earned it. He's healthy and he's doing the work. And yeah, I mean, he could help you. He's a guy that nobody has really anything on. I mean, they have minor league stuff on him, but they don't know how his stuff plays. They haven't seen him work with Yiner, work with Victor Caratini, work with Bracamonte back there in the bullpen sessions. And so let him go up there. Let him get around the big league guys. I think if he's healthy and he's still throwing well, there's no reason why you can't bring him in. Bring him in and give some of these other guys a rest so that the guys that you've been counting on can be there. And then you have this wild card. If a possibility comes up or some injury, something comes up late, then Forrest Whitley can fill that void. So I think he needs a shot. I think he deserves a September call-up. If anybody for the bullpen comes up to help, I think it should be Whitley.
I think we should all be excited to watch what Zach DeZenzo. Maybe I'm calling
Zachary.
Zachary.
Like kid, Zachary, 10 years old, running around the little league field.
But I'm excited to see what he can do as a baseball player, especially seeing his first hit. So let's see what this kid can do. Let's see what the Astros can do down the stretch, because they're going to be playing some tough teams coming up. So the Astros need to wake up and decide that they're going to play ball. And at some point, Ferguson may.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, Whitley and Ferguson out. Good Lord. If we're going to have Ferguson out there, can we just boot Ferguson and bring up Whitley? Please, for the love of God. I'm Team Whitley.
All right, so we can't trade him for anybody at this point. We have Ferguson. So that's all we got for this edition of the Locked On Astros podcast. Hopefully we'll talk to you again after some Astros wins. My name is Eric Huysman. He is Brett Chancey. We are the Locked On Astros podcast. Go Astros.